Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. We're recording today from Advisors Mortgage Group studio right here in downtown Carmel. And I'm Rick Rittman, the hardworking mortgage guy. And I've been in real estate and mortgages for over 34 years. I've helped over 5,200 folks finance their homes. My team and I believe in custom tailored loans, not the one size fits all approach. We believe there is a right mortgage for you, and we believe we are the team to deliver it.
And I'm Ian Arnold, part of Rick's hardworking mortgage team. I've been in the financial industry for 15 years, helping people either rebuild their credit or even just get their credit a little higher to get the better interest rates. I have a passion in trying to help you increase your overall wealth and create generation wealth for you and your family.
And if you have any questions on Indy's real estate market or mortgages, please go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
So, Rick, just a few minutes ago, some guy was just knocking on our door. He said he wanted to come and he had something to tell us. Who was this gentleman?
Clark Giles.
Clark?
And he's with your Realty Link, correct?
Yes, and it's Giles.
Giles.
Yeah, no problem.
See, I should have everybody else. The only one I've ever gotten right was the one last
Smith.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's easy.
Yeah. I have trouble with Ripma. What are you going to do?
Your mom still says you pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Mom passed.
I wasn't trying to bring that sore subject up. Goodness, now I feel bad.
So you're not only a real estate agent, you're also a real estate attorney.
Yes, that's correct.
Correct?
Yes.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, double threat. Yeah, and that I think really gives you a lot of great information that most people don't have. So I'm sure your guidance is critical, and you probably you help other agents when they're looking at.
Yeah, frequently I'll have agents that just from my office or just other offices that will just call me up, and I always tell them I'm happy to if they just want to bounce something off of me, the clock doesn't start. They're not going to pay something for just like a phone call. I'm happy to talk about it at a very high level. You have to do a conflicts check first, of course. Yeah. But at a very high level, I'm happy to always answer a question if I know it, and then even if I don't, I'm happy to go try to find the answer because I like it when someone asks me a question that I don't immediately know the answer to after so many years.
Probably doesn't happen very often anymore.
It doesn't happen very often, but it can.
Yeah.
So, what would somebody come and ask you questions about? So for somebody doesn't know.
Yeah, generally with often with real estate brokers, it's hey, we think this transaction may be falling apart for reason X or reason Y. We're going to have a fight over the earnest money. What do you think? What does Indiana law say about that? Or sometimes it'll be just about an interpretation of one of the standard purchase agreements or addendums or amendments that all of us realtors tend to use here.
So I want to know which came first, real estate as a real estate agent or real estate law?
Yeah, so I was a broker first. Okay. I come from a family of realtors. So when I went to college, just right out of college, of course, my mom, who's been a realtor for I don't even know, over 50 years, so long. Wow. They don't even charge her for her my board dues anymore. She's a Maritime.
Oh, wow.
So coming from a family of realtors, I got my real estate license right out of college, about 21, 22 years old, and did that for a while and didn't actually go to law school, even though I planned to do that right out of undergrad. Didn't go back to law school until I was 36.
Oh, wow.
And became a lawyer right before my 40th birthday. Wow. So I've been practicing law now about 7 years.
And that had to be a lot of, when you're getting your law degree, you're a real estate agent working full-time?
Yes.
And then you go to get your law degree, yes, which is also a full-time job.
Yes, at night, yeah.
Yeah. You had to really put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah, it was a lot of effort. It really took, I had to have a discussion, with my significant other at the time of hey, I'm going to do this. You may not see me for a while. But I swear it'll be all worth it. When I get out. Ironically, my lowest grade in law school was in real estate.
Really?
Yeah. My professor told me at the time, he's like, oh, you're a realtor? You're going to hate this class. And so,
oh, really?
Yeah, because it kind of comes down to, I don't know if you ever saw that old movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield,
Oh
where he's
yes,
like
I love
the
that.
business guy in
Yes.
the business class?
Uh-huh.
It was a lot like that. I was like, well, that would never actually happen in the real world because this is what would actually happen. But I tried to give the book answer, but and when I say low grade, I still got a B plus. But,
yeah. Well, that would have been my high grade. So yeah, the back to school. I don't remember what he called it, but where are you going to build that?
Yeah, it's like Fantasyland.
Fantasyland. That was hilarious. That was Rodney Dangerfield was a funny man. He was great.
Yeah, he's great.
I love that. So before real estate, where did you go to college?
Yeah, so I went to college at Indiana University, Bloomington.
Okay.
Went down there, graduated right when the internet boom happened. So I also have like a background in IT. So I jumped into IT for a while, did IT and real estate as I tried to build up my real estate career. Got into the music business for about a decade. Kept saying I was going to go back to law school. Kept doing real estate. Finally, when I in my mid 30s, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this now, or else it's going to be too late, and the return on the investment's not going to be worth it to pay the law school to do that. So that's why I decided to go back.
Yeah. So what did you do in the music industry?
Yeah, so everything. Wore many hats, much like the realtor and the lawyer thing. I was a tour manager for a band, ran a record label, put out some records for a while, played in a band, did some worked from distribution. I was always a realtor while I was doing that because the music industry didn't pay. But it was a fun time. I'm glad I did it. I got to meet a lot of people. Got to go to every state in the union. Wow. People often say like, it's nice that you got to travel around. You see all these cities, and I said, yeah, but I saw the worst part of every city because we were playing in a band. So and we were there for about 24 hours. But yes, it was nice.
Yeah. My nephew is in the band Emery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's a drummer.
Okay.
And they've kind of now they just go on tour, but they'll have normal jobs, right?
Yeah.
But when they go on tour, I guess they're really big in Europe and Australia.
Okay. I know a few bands like that they'll play here and it's maybe 40, 50 people, but then they'll go to Europe and play in Germany and it's just like a stadium show.
Yeah. They have huge shows in those areas. It's amazing to me. So they still do it because it's profitable, but they all have to have jobs that none of them are real estate agents that I know of, but they're all they all have jobs that have to have flexibility.
Yeah.
So how did all of that experience that you have gotten over the years and all the different jobs that you have, how does that relate or help you in real estate?
I'd say it actually builds your emotional intelligence a lot because you're dealing with so many different people. You're dealing with like in the music industry, you're dealing with the quintessential artistic temperament. Where it's maybe not always about numbers or rationality. Sometimes it's about the passion of the project. But then other times when you're dealing with the club owner at the end of the night, you're talking cold numbers and cold hard cash and return on investment. And so it's all the jobs I've ever done has kind of built that emotional intelligence and knowing kind of like who before you stand, who you're standing in front of and like what's going to be a priority to them and how you can best serve them as an agent.
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of exciting things. So now you've gotten into real estate, and what would you say, is your favorite part of the job?
Yeah. So I think actually my favorite part of the job is working with first-time home buyers. I've always said that to steal a line from Dave Ramsey, I have a heart of a teacher, and I love to teach about real estate to individuals. So I love it when someone comes into my office and says, hey, I want to buy a house. I don't know where to start. I don't know anything about mortgages. I don't know what kind of mortgage I need. I don't know how much money I need down. I don't know the process. And I love just talking them through that. And then at the end of the transaction, when we close, for them to say, I feel like I actually understood. I felt confident the whole time that we were going through this. And, even if I had any anxieties, you kind of assuage those fears. And I feel like I somewhat know what I'm doing now, and I'd feel comfortable doing it again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, was it hard to go from real estate to do all your other stuff, and then your family still does real estate, and then you trying to get back into it? Was that any struggle, or were they just kept nudging you? Hey, you need to get back into this?
No, I think a lot of times whenever I'd go off and do something else, like what my mom would always say to me is like, well, real estate's always going to be there. Like you always have that to fall back on. I'm a very risk adverse person, so I always have to have like multiple backup plans to things. And she would always say, "What are you talking about? You're a realtor. You can do this anytime. You have a wide network of people. Go try it." So I think it actually like encouraged me to take a little more risk and go try to do some fun things and jump in a van with some guys and go play a show, because I knew I could always come back to that. It wouldn't have been the same if I was working a corporate job where I was trying to get the gold watch at the end of 40 years.
Right.
It's not worth it to take that kind of risk. So
He's risk averse,
Hey,
which I understand.
Yeah.
I am too.
I am very risk averse.
Yet some people would say you've kind of taken, it's not a risky way necessarily, but it's self-employed is considered kind of a risky way. And you're self-employed, right?
Yeah. So I'm self-employed, but I wear many hats in that
Yeah.
self-employment. Yeah, but
Okay.
also like I'm risk adverse, but I also value freedom and being able to kind of be my own person and have a little bit of an authority problem, but I don't really like being told what to do.
Yeah.
So
I'm not like that at all.
being self-employed is great for that.
hey, Clark, if somebody's looking to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
So really the best way to get a hold of me is through email, which is just Clark, CLARK, at yourrealtylink.com. You can also go to the yourrealtylink.com website and get to me that way. That's really the most effective way to reach me.
Awesome. And Rick, how would they get a hold of you or I?
They go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And on the website, you can find a lot of information, but you can also find all the contact information for Ian or I. Thanks for listening to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. The gurus we interview share valuable insights. They reveal their strengths, personalities, and how they'll work for you. While we hardworking mortgage guys secure your best mortgage, real estate gurus work hard too. They avoid problems the amateurs don't see. They listen. They find unrealized opportunities. If you're buying or selling a home, a real estate agent is a valuable asset. If you're even thinking of buying or selling a home, keep listening and definitely call one of Indy's Real Estate Gurus.
All right. So before we get to the question of the week, we're going to find out what is his superpower. We're going to change it up a little bit.
You are changing up. I'm not ready.
I got to keep you on your toes.
What are you doing? Well, go ahead.
All right, Clark. What do you think is your superpower?
So I've already mentioned the emotional intelligence to an extent, so I'm not going to fall back on that answer, but I would say that is one of my superpowers. But also I'd just say just my deep experience, being able to be a real estate attorney and a real estate broker. I've seen it all from all sides of a particular transaction, and it's rare to me. I'm solution oriented, so a lot of times, you'll run into in a transaction. There's been some that like agents have said to me in my office, like, if you were not the broker on this transaction, this would not have gotten done. Like, because you thought up a creative way to get this to the closing table that, and a lot of other times people would have just thrown up their hands and said, "Hey, it's impossible." And so that's really, I think, would be a superpower of mine.
That's an important one too, to be able to keep keep everything together and figure out ways to make it go through. I don't know why, but it's one of those things I like to do.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at the time when the problem happens,
Yes.
but like when you can get to that closing table with the help of the other agent on the other side and the lender and the mortgage people and the title company, and you get there and you get it done and everyone's like, "Wow, we can't believe we pulled that off."
Yes.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah, and it's so valuable for the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's a big piece of why somebody should work with you. But how big a piece do you think having the real estate law background helps your clientele when they're looking to buy a home?
Yeah, I think so. With a lot of the first-time home buyers, I think it helps when with a little bit of the authenticity and gravitas or authority that you can bring to it. Like every real estate agent I think out there has been in the situation where the parents come to the home inspection and they're walking through and they're looking at you like, is this a used car salesman trying
Right.
to like take advantage of my poor child, and convince them to buy this house? So like being a lawyer, and I think helps with that. And I think once they meet me, they understand that like I really just want the best for the client. And
Right.
there's been multiple times where I've walked a house with a first time home buyer and said, I don't think you want to buy this house. Like I think that it's going to be too much work for like what you've told me that you want to do or that you're willing to do.
Right.
I don't think it makes sense, or I don't think it makes sense for the situation that you've told me. I want them to be happy at the end of the day, and I frequently tell my clients, I'll show you a house to the end of time. Like we'll keep looking at it. We're not going to try to buy the first house that we necessarily look at.
Right. You want to find the right house.
I want to find the right house. Now, if it happens to be the first house, great.
Right.
But sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a 10.
And sometimes you don't know it's the right house.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to look at a few more just to make sure you know that you're buying the right house.
Yeah. We've done that before too, where we've looked at one house and like, this is great. Let's schedule a showing for 2 more houses just so we can say that we've looked at 3 and you feel like, like you've gone through the process and looked at what else is out there. But then we'll go back and write an offer on this one because I think it's a great fit for you.
Right.
Yep. I will say this though. When my wife and I bought our house, real estate agent did the same thing you're doing. You don't realize, and I come from a sales background, so I'm looking at a realtor just like, look at it. I mean, you're just trying to sell me. But we looked at a couple houses, and she goes, "Yeah, you don't want this one." I mean, she goes, based off of your situation, and you guys want kids later and stuff, this house isn't going to do it. And she told us the reasons why. And we're like, oh, we didn't even think about that type of stuff. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, so she's like looking out for us. This is like, so our fences and gates went straight down from that point on. And it was much easier, I would say. And I wasn't thinking of, oh, she's trying to sell me so she can get a commission. So,
yeah. I mean, I know how it is when you first start out. It's very feast or famine. You have to. You want to make your commission because it's hard if you don't have that referral network built up. But I think the agents that think about it strategically look at things and they say like, hey, someone's going to buy 2 to 3 houses in their lifetime. If they really like me and I treat them fair and honest and with authenticity, they're going to come back to me when they're ready to sell their house and buy their next one.
Right.
So
plus they have a lot of referrals.
Yeah.
If you do a great job for somebody, they want their friends taken care of, their friends and family taken care of just like they were.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very valuable. And I've noticed here the top agents in the city like yourself, the people who are gurus that are doing huge volume and have done a great job, they care about the client more than they care about the deal. That's part of what I want to make sure people understand, that real estate agents should be respected. The top agents should be respected for what they do because they do care. They're there to really help people get the best house for them. Just like you said, you want the best house for them. You want them happy.
Yeah. I'm sure you've had this experience too. Like you take care of a client and then suddenly you're doing a mortgage or you're selling a house to everybody at their work.
Yes.
Because that's the best kind of referral you can get is the word of mouth. Like, hey, I use this guy or I use this woman, and they did a great job for me, and they were honest, and I trusted them, and they did me right.
Yes, and you never know who that's going to be.
Yeah.
Some people refer, and other people don't refer anybody. They love you, but they're just not referral type people.
Yeah, they're just introverts.
Yeah.
I can deal with that, or I can understand that.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's get into the question of the week. And the question of the week is sponsored by, Rick and I, the Hardworking Mortgage Guys, where we believe in helping and supporting you and your realtor by sending constant updates on your loan. Contact us today at hardworkingmortgageguys.com. All right, so here you go. What was your first car?
AMC Eagle.
Oh, an Eagle.
Yeah.
That was my
4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive. Yeah. Was it the station wagon version?
Well, it was like I don't know if you would call it a station wagon. I wouldn't call it a station wagon. Okay. It was like a mini. It kind of looked like a station wagon that was shrunk.
Okay. Yeah. So more like what they call today, like the Subarus, that SUV style. But
exactly.
I know exactly what my first. Not my first, but the place when I was in car sales, the last place I was at, I was a general manager of the store, and it was a Jeep Eagle store.
Okay.
They were great cars.
Yeah, it was a good car. Ironically, my next car after that was a white Caprice Classic station wagon, and so that was the Great White.
There's a big difference in size
Yes.
between those two cars.
Well, the AMC Eagle was hard for me. I know they can't see me on the radio, but being 6'4", it was hard for me to fit in the Eagle. But
Yeah.
the station wagon is more my style.
Yeah. And you called it a what?
It was a Great White.
The Great White. Yeah. Okay. And so it sounds like you like that car better than the Eagle.
I did. Yeah, but it was more like, because it was like you could fit 8 people in the car. It was more of a party car.
Take the van.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The whole van
Yeah,
can go with
exactly.
that.
And for shorter people out there, I'm 6'3". Rick, you're close to 6'3".
I'm 6'4".
6'4". So you don't realize how much different cars, when you sit in them, they change. Like my parents, my mom and dad are only 5'6". My grandpa was 6'2", so that's where I got it. But it's interesting because when we were shopping for cars, I'm like, I don't like this car. They were like, why? I go, because one, the seat doesn't go far enough back. My knees feel like they're on the steering wheel. Or you get in a car and you turn and all you're looking at is the pillar.
Yep.
Like you can't see. I'm like, you want to talk about blind spot? I can't see anything. So I do have feelings when it comes to searching for the right car and not sitting in the right car. Short people, it's a hard thing to understand.
It is.
Well, you realize in this group you're the short guy.
Hey. Yeah, but it's interesting. I play a lot of basketball, and yet I'm still one of the tall guys. It's weird.
Yeah, well, all depends on the group you're in.
Yes,
right?
it does.
What's crazy now is all the kids are taller. Now,
Oh,
I
yeah.
used to being the tallest person anywhere I go, and now when I go to anywhere with like 20-year-olds or less, like I feel like I'm average or the short guy.
Yeah, it's weird how I don't know what's happened. It definitely is.
Bovine growth hormone in milk or something. I don't know what it is.
I heard that's what it is, but I wouldn't. I'm not saying that's what it is.
I'm not a scientist,
but I have heard that's what it is. So when you were looking, if you had a friend going to buy a home, and let's say they're in some other state, you can't help them. What advice would you give them on how to pick the right agent?
Yeah, so I would, to fall back on the old canard that I've already used, I'd be like, you want to talk to somebody that's willing to explain things to you, like that's willing to teach you and to basically approach it as if a lot of times you can go into somebody and they're condescending. They go in and they're like over explaining to you. You want somebody that's willing to explain and go into detail, but also doesn't make you feel stupid when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, referrals are great. You can look on the internet and kind of see the ratings that agents get. That's okay, but really nothing's like word of mouth from somebody that you actually know, like empirical evidence from somebody. And I feel like too that just like to trust your gut too. Like there's just been transactions in the past, not necessarily real estate, but just any transaction where I've been like, I don't know, I get a weird feeling about this person, and they're saying all the right things, but it's there's just something off. And the times I haven't listened to my gut and I've just moved forward with that, I've always regretted it.
Yeah, having that obviously makes a big difference. But having that rapport with somebody where you get along with them, I think that's a big piece of, like when you meet somebody. For us, you meet somebody and you're talking to them, you want to get along.
Yeah. Right.
You just don't. Everybody just doesn't mesh together, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm not. I've told potential clients before that I'm not the right agent for them. Sometimes I'm like, I think you need, an agent that's more like this, and
Right.
I'll refer them out, and I have no problem doing that.
Right.
Sometimes the right agent isn't going to be the right agent for everybody.
Now, I am sure your mom was a big mentor for you. I'm just guessing.
Yes, absolutely.
And how has she helped you? And then how about other mentors, or how have you mentored others to help them?
Yeah, so she's so there's hardly ever been a question that I've called her to ask that she hasn't known the answer to or hasn't run into it. And I kind of feel like I've now assumed that mantle. It's been great with other attorneys in my office, either my law partners or other attorneys that work as of counsel for us. They'll frequently come to me with a real estate question, and I'll say, like, okay, well, what hat am I wearing when I'm going to answer this question for you? Because the answer is going to be different if I'm answering it as a real estate broker or an attorney. So let me answer it as an attorney first. I'll give you the attorney answer, and then I'm going to tell you what's actually going to probably happen as a real estate broker. And I walk them through it and walk them through the situation, the different options. And at the end of it, they're usually like, wow, I would have never thought to do it that way. It's like, yeah.
Well, I've got this question beating in the back of my head that I think I should have asked. What instrument do you play?
So I did play bass. Yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't played it in a long time, probably like 15 years.
So you're not going to give us a little.
I am not.
Okay. Okay. So do you have attorney? Do you have a law practice also?
Yeah. So I have a law practice that's on the east side of Indianapolis in historic Irvington. We do real estate and business. Most of our clients are real estate investors or other real estate brokers. We do a lot of 1031 exchanges too for anyone interested in that and investors interested in talking about that. But we also do business law. So I say that like our core kind of demographic is we're focused on creatives, and creatives I define very broadly. That can be everything from a Python programmer, developer to an artist out there. Both of my law partner and I, our background is in intellectual property. Okay. So now we've kind of defined ourselves as property attorneys, broadly defined. Okay. Intellectual and real.
So you do both.
So we do both. We don't do any criminal law, family law, or any kind of family drama, stuff like that. We kind of stay focused very narrowly to business and real estate.
So,
well, hold on. I think we're going to need to get his information out there.
Some people we probably do.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you about that, how would they get hold of you?
So for law matters, it would be Giles Law Group. G, it's pronounced like a J, but spelled with a G. GILES lawgroup.com. And you can always email me at clark@yourrealtylink.com. And even if it's a legal issue, I'll probably respond to you from my lawyer email address, but that'll get to me.
Perfect.
And Rick, how would they get hold of you or I?
Just go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And on the website, you can find our contact information, so you can contact us from there, or you can maybe find the information you're looking for on the website.
Or go to Indy's Real Estate Gurus podcast and just subscribe, and you'll have all your information.
Absolutely.
So I know you were talking about that with your mom mentoring and everything like that. So as I know you got back into it, what hurdle or do you think you wish you would have done differently to get back once you got back in?
Yeah. Once I got back in, what hurdle? I would say that like something that I've really seen the value in the last 10 years that I did not do when I first started out was having like a customer relationship manager kind of database and doing those like follow-up touches. And, it would be kind of like, hey, we closed the house. It was a great transaction. Thanks. Call me if you need anything else. And I just wouldn't follow up or talk to the person, ever again until they called me, hopefully for the next time to buy the house, because I was in my 20s and I just didn't understand the value of staying like top of mind to people.
Right.
So that's something that like, so when I got back into real estate, I was kind of like starting back over. I didn't have my old Rolodex or anything. So now that's what I try to do. I try to always reach out even after close the transaction, try to send the holiday card, just touch base with people. Like even if I know that they never intend to buy another house again, it's like you still get those referrals from people that they know, and I just touch base with them or remind them to, if they refied their house, to file their homestead exemption again, and just like things that I can help them, anything that I can think I can be a value add for, I try to do. And I didn't do that in my 20s.
Yeah, I believe heavily in follow up, and I think that first of all, I think it's you have to do it because your customer deserves it. Your client deserves that. They spend a lot of money, but you also spend, especially in real estate, you spend a lot of time, mm-hmm. and you get a relationship. And it's always weird to me. It's like you have this relationship, and you're seeing each other, 3-4 times a week. You're talking on the phone. They buy a house, they close, and then it's over.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be over. So I commend you very much for doing the follow-up. I think that we do a lot of follow-up, and because we think it's valuable. We think it's important. We think it's fair. It's what you should do to honor your customer. Mm-hmm. If the customer says, hey, don't do this anymore, then you don't do it. And I've had customers say, listen, I'm fine. And they still come back, and they still send referrals. But a lot of people do want to talk to you. Do you find they want to talk to you? They're happy when you call them or you
Yeah.
contact them?
Yeah, they do want to talk to me, and a lot of times they just want to like kick some ideas around. They're just like, hey, how do you think the market's doing? Or hey, the
Yes.
market's kind of crazy right now. Or what do you think about this new law that's been proposed? Or what do you know? They just kind of like to get my take on things, and it's nice. But I like feeling like I'm looked at as an expert or someone that whose opinion matters.
Well, you
Yeah.
have a little extra
Yeah,
because of your law degree and
Yeah.
because of being an attorney. That gives you, in my mind, a little extra where I may not call an agent for a legal matter, but if you're my real estate agent, I'm probably calling you and just asking just to see what I need to do. Right? I get calls all the time. I had a call the other day asking me a question that I really don't want to answer because I'm not an attorney, right? But as an attorney, that you have that advantage, I would think.
Yeah, I'll give a little disclaimer, like, hey, I don't know all the specifics of it, and this isn't, necessarily legal advice, depending, but I give you my hypothetical answer.
Right. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
obviously, it's just like trying to help somebody buy a house. If you don't have all the information, you can't help them buy the right house, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of surprising when people don't, and I think it's the value of showing multiple houses. We talked about maybe it's the first house, maybe it is, but showing multiple houses lets you know a lot more about what they like and don't like and what they're looking for and not looking for, correct?
Yeah, I always, to use a nerdy Star Trek reference, I always tell people I'm like the Borg. I get better and better with each house that we look at. Like I know by the third or fourth house, I know when we walk in if they're going to like it or not, because I know their aesthetic taste. I know what they're valuing, what they're trying to look at. There's even been times where I've shown 3 or 4 houses for a person, and then maybe another house comes on the market and they can't go see it that day, and I say, hey, I'll go look at it for you, and I can be like, you'd hate the kitchen,
Oh, okay, yeah.
or I think you'll actually like this one, and we go do a second showing, and they're like, yeah, you're right. So there's a lot of value in that, and just listening to the client.
Have you had one where you've gone and looked at, you took them to a house that they would have never looked at, but because of what they told you and they loved the house and that's what they ended up with?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also just been like, hey, I think you're really going to like this area based on what you told me, and I know it wasn't on your radar. I know it's a little bit out of the parameters you told me, but just trust me, let's go see it. And they've been like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to thank you for the ratings boost. Anytime you mention a Star Trek reference, I guarantee we're going to get tons of Trekkies coming in listening. Okay. So thank you for the rating boost. But what would you think would be one of your most memorable deals?
Oh, geez. Well, I did have a. I'm not going to remember all the specifics of it because it happened 15 years ago. But I had a quadruple closing one time, where it was literally it was just a cascading chain of closings from sales, purchases and sales of property. And on one of them, I was a dual agent, so I was doing both sides. And so there's literally 4 closings I had to stack up in a row and do in that day. So that was a great day too.
But stressful.
But very stressful because anyone in that chain that fell apart, we would have had to reschedule everything.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's the thing that's so important about getting as a lender closing the loan on time. You close or purchase on time.
Yeah.
Because the ripple effect that can have is tremendous.
Yeah, and what's crazy is no one remembers that it was not your fault. Sometimes even as the lender or the real estate agent, it's this was completely out of our control.
Right.
X happened.
Right.
But it didn't close on time.
Right.
That's what matters at the end of the day. So kind of going back to that risk adverse thing, so I try to build in a lot of buffers. I try to make sure that everyone's responding to the mortgage broker right away.
Yes.
Did you get everything to Rick?
It's critical.
Yeah, it's critical.
Yes. Yeah, I've had some where I've had I had one I remember, and it was, I told the real estate agent, I said, listen, I'll do this, but you have to understand this is a risky deal.
Mm-hmm.
This may not close, and it may be at the very end because of the situation. I said, but we think we can do it, but I don't want to do this and lose your business because it doesn't close.
Yep.
It didn't close, and I lost his business for exactly why. And it's that risk adverse. I should have said, go somewhere else, let them not close it.
Yep.
you know? But every indication was we could close it at the time. But things happened that made it unclosable. So I agree with you. I'm terrible at it, though. I want to help, you may do that same thing. I want to help, so I want to make it work. And 99% of the time, I figure out a way to make something work. Are you the same way?
Yeah, there's a constant tension between like managing expectations and then wanting to help. You know, there's been some times where I'm like, this is a hopeless cause. Like I do not see any way this could happen, but I want to help you.
Yes.
But like also I want to try to manage your expectations, and just as over time on that spectrum, I've gotten more to the I can't help you and refer you out kind of thing, because I want to help you, but I don't want you to hate me at the end of this.
Right.
But that was another thing that I did early on. And it's just like, if I thought there was a 5% chance, you know, I would be managing expectations all the time, telling them the disclaimer, but we try to move forward. And now I've gotten more and more risk adverse as I've gotten older.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what happens? Even with the 5% you warned them the whole time, they're still upset about it, which I get it. I get it. So what is your makeup of your real estate team? What does that look like?
So, so it's a family-owned brokerage. So we've got approximately like 22 agents out of our office on the south side. It's in Greenwood. It's on Southport Road. For what I would call my team, it's me and my law partner. We're on the east side of Indianapolis. We mostly work within the 465 area.
Okay.
So like I will do stuff in like Carmel, Fishers, Westfield, things like that. But generally, I'm downtown and historic Irvington, Woodruff Place, that area of town near North Side. So it's really just me and Jordan, my law partner, who's also a realtor, and we just kind of, it's us against the world down there.
So, so did your mom, when you were deciding where, she's like, no, I have the south side. You got to choose somewhere else.
Well, the south side's the only side of town I've never lived on. So I have sold some real estate down there, but generally, like, I kind of staked out my territory on the east side, and just luckily, no one fought me for it. So.
Well, Irvington's a great area.
Yeah, I love Irvington. Yeah. I'm formerly on the Irvington Development Organization board. My law partner's actually the president of the board now. Okay. And so like we're always trying to attract and retain business to the Irvington neighborhood, and just we're very into placemaking and trying to make it a great place to live.
Yeah. So I know you work with first-time home buyers. Do you work, what is your basic clientele? I know there's always outliers. But.
So I'd say my two basic clienteles are, one is the first-time home buyers or people that have been very intimidated about buying a home, or maybe got burned in the past 20 years ago, and they're dipping their toe back into the water to try to do it again. And they want somebody to kind of hold their hand through it and make them feel secure. So that's one kind of segment I deal with. And then the other segment is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where it's real estate investors. So that's where with the first-time home buyers, I have to like kind of drag them along a lot of times and say, hey, it's going to be okay. With the other side of the spectrum, it's an interesting thing, because that's me kind of grabbing the reins and being like, whoa, slow down. Please don't make 3 cash offers, on 3 different houses all on the same day with no contingencies. So it's interesting to kind of, to see the spectrum and the different approaches, the different segments that I serve. But I enjoy both. And I love working with both.
How is the investment quality, I guess? I don't know what else to call in Indianapolis and the surrounding counties.
Yeah, so there's still so it's not the same as it was last year, where you could put pretty much any property on the market and have 20 offers on it, no matter what condition it was in. Investors are getting a little more discerning now. We're seeing a sell-off of some of the assets, especially assets that were financed through like private loans.
Right.
Or private investors. We're seeing a lot of that kind of sell off, because the investors are seeing the mortgage rates going up and saying like, okay, I don't like the downside of this. Like I need to unload some of my portfolio. But the quality's still out there, and I tend to like to work with buy and hold investors. I will work with any type of investor, but really most of the investors I work with are the type that want to put some money into the home, know what they're getting into, are comfortable with what they're getting into, do the work, and either want to rent to another long-term tenant, or want to hold on to it and kind of do that placemaking in the neighborhood that I was talking about, and kind of build property values up. So,
I know it's a big difference too between somebody who is buying and holding than somebody who's buying, basically, just buying and fixing up and selling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I do work with some flippers. I do not work with a lot of out-of-state investors. Just kind of like the institutional portfolio people where they've never even seen the home. It's just a line on a spreadsheet, and
Okay.
they're buying it. Like I'm not saying I'll talk to anybody and work with anyone, but that's generally not who I've been focusing my marketing efforts to try. I don't feel as fulfilled doing that, so I'm trying to get it from investors that like enjoy the assets that they own and want to be a value add to the neighborhood, whatever neighborhood they're in.
I was talking to an investor, and he has 100. I think it was 110 properties, and he said the vast majority of them he's never seen.
Yeah,
because they're all over the country, and he has property managers that take care of it, and he never sees them.
Yeah. I mean, it works for a lot of people. Yeah. I own a fair amount of property, and that would not be my approach. Just because it goes back to that risk adverse thing. Right. I have to be able to drive by it and see it, or I have to know if there's a problem that I can drive to it in 30 minutes. But it works for other people, and good for them.
Now, because you own property, if you had, let's say there's somebody out there, they're thinking about buying rental property, but they're new to it.
Yep.
Do you think there's some value in them working with somebody like you who knows you've done it? First, you're an attorney. Secondly, you owned your own rental property. You own your own rental property, so you kind of walk them through. It seems like it would.
Yeah, absolutely. Sense. Like we'll walk a house, and a lot of times they'll say, "I think this needs about 10,000, of work to get it up to where it's rentable," and I'll say, "No, it needs about 25, or it needs like 30." And that's like bare bones, and then I can share with them some of my spreadsheets. I'm saying, like, hey, it's not just about the amount of rent that you can get, because you've got things like, insurance, you've got things like property taxes. You can't just like look at what your mortgage payment's going to be, and just because your mortgage payment's $900 and you're renting it for $950 and you're making $50 a month, you're probably not actually not netting any money when you take taxes and insurance into it, and then the repairs you got to make, and if you're using a property manager. So I can kind of walk them through how property managers work, and like whether they want to do it themselves. I can sometimes tell them a hard truth of like, yeah, you think you're going to do all the repairs yourself, but when you get that call on Christmas Eve to fix a toilet at 2 a.m, you're going to think about maybe hiring a property manager, or it's not going to be. You're not going to love being a landlord so much.
Because the person flushed something down the toilet they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I had rental property years ago, and what I learned is I should never be the manager of a rental. That's not my thing. I'm not good at it. I believe people. I think it's a thing in sales. You tend to believe people.
Yeah.
You want to think the best of everybody, and so when you're given the sob story, you just. So I think I think rental property is a great thing to do, but I think you need, for me, somebody like me needs a property manager. I couldn't do it. The only time I ever made money is when I hired a property manager. That was it. That was the only time. So what do you look at in your real estate business? What are you looking at and going, man, I want to make a change here to improve my business in the maybe this year.
Yeah, so I really like, now that we've built kind of the system and the process, I just kind of want to scale it a little bit. So I'm interested in, I love teaching real estate, and I love teaching real estate to clients. I also kind of want to just build my team out now, is what I've been kind of focusing on the next 1 to 2 year roadmap. Maybe get 1 or 2 more agents, and interested in some agents that just want to learn the realities, the good and bad of real estate, and build the team out.
Right. Well, you know how to do it. You've done it. Yeah. You've been in it a long time. You have your mom, who's, you said, how long? 60 years?
She's been in it over 50 years.
Over 50 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. She has to have tremendous knowledge. And just somebody who's really, and she still works in it?
Yeah. And I'll still call her occasionally and ask her a question.
And she still takes your calls.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. You should just call her and ask questions, even if you don't have them.
Sometimes I have to call from my law partner's phone, so she picks up. But she does take my call.
Yeah. So she's still top dog, though?
Yeah.
She sells the most?
She still sells. I think we may have one agent in our office that sells more, but she still beats me most years. Yeah, she's got that referral network of, like you just can't beat.
No, yeah, after that long.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good referral network, but she's got a couple more years on me. So.
Yeah, that is hard to beat.
That's all right. That keeps Thanksgiving dinners. She's like, "Can you pass the turkey?" And I sold more, right? Yes, Mom. So, how are you seeing the indie market in the, let's say, the next year to 5 years?
Yeah, so depends on who you are, I guess. So I always say for real estate agents, I don't fear like bear markets, because for a real estate agent, it's like, well, I'll just sell the property that people want to sell off. Like, so I'm not intimidated by a downturn in the market. I think it's just a matter of positioning yourself. Um, for your average home buyer, I think the home prices that have been going up, kind of rocketing up, which is never something that's really happened in Indianapolis.
Right.
We're seeing that. I think that's going to slow. We're seeing that already. I still think it's a good time to buy. I think mortgage rates will hopefully level out. You'd probably be a better expert at that than I would, but I hope that they're going to kind of level off and stop going up. The boom is over, but I don't think that we're sliding into a recession or anything yet as far as real estate goes.
Yeah, I think our biggest issue, and Rick and I have talked about this, is inventory.
Yeah, that's really the biggest issue. And I think that could solve so many things, just having some more inventory on the market, whether you're talking about new builds or just inventory of existing property.
Well, we believe that rates are going to come down, and they've already done that some.
Yep.
The big negative to interest rates is inflation, and inflation has come down. There's lagging indicators that are keeping it a little higher than it should be. So we think this summer. I actually believe that later this year, maybe into next year, we're going to be significantly lower in interest rate. I'm not saying we're going to get to where we were.
Yeah.
But and if that happens, and there's no guarantees because none of us have a crystal ball that we can see it. But if that happens, we still have an inventory problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how we don't go back to the way it was.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, too, that just with some context of time, like I bought my first house, I think I was 21 years old when I bought my first house, and my mortgage rate then was higher than they are now. So like
Right.
I at least have the context. And my mom will always say like, oh, when I bought my first house,
Right.
my mortgage rate was in the double digits.
Yeah.
So I think it's still a good time to buy a home. I think it's always a good time to be in real estate. And real estate isn't necessarily tied to the stock market. So again, goes back to that risk adverse thing. If you can diversify a bit, not saying put everything into real estate, just like I wouldn't say don't put everything into the stock market or Bitcoin or whatever else is out there.
Right.
But like to have a diverse real estate portfolio, I think is a responsible thing to do for investment.
Yeah, I agree. So if somebody has any real estate questions or any real estate law questions, what are the best ways to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so email is the best way, clark@yourrealtylink.com. You can also go to Giles Law Group, GILES, lawgroup.com, or yourrealtylink.com, and that will get to me as well.
And we're at the end of the show. We really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd say it was really surreal after hearing you on the radio so much to see you do it in person.
Yeah.
To hear the voice. Like, I know that voice.
He'll never listen to you again. And to get a hold of me and I, it's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
And a reminder, if you know any friends, family, or coworkers looking to buy, sell, refinance, contact Rick or I, and we'll be more than happy to help them.
And don't forget to follow us.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Rittman's NMLS number 6645889. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.